What's up, friends? Welcome back to the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Just a quick episode for you here. Just wanted to quickly discuss Jordan Love's fifth-year option because I think with all of the news over the last week, it's gone a little bit under the radar. You've had the Aaron Rodgers trade, obviously a huge draft. Packers starting to pick up undrafted free agents. All this stuff is going on. And in the meantime, the Packers have until Tuesday to make a decision if they want to pick up Jordan Love's fifth-year option or not. I wanted to get this out there prior to, maybe we get the news by the time I'm done recording this that they have in fact picked up Jordan Love's option or that they haven't picked it up. But either way, they have until Tuesday to make that decision. And this is one of those moves that has been very perplexing to me because quite honestly, I thought this was going to be a no-brainer. Once you trade away Aaron and have his contract completely off the books and aren't really paying a quarterback next year anymore, of course you pick up Jordan Love's fifth-year option. Like I said, it seemed like just something that was going to naturally happen without really having to put any thought into it whatsoever. But what I want to go over quickly is what Brian Gutekunst could be, going through with options right now and what they ultimately should be doing with this fifth-year option and play out some of those scenarios as well. So first of all, what could be happening? It was asked to Brian during draft weekend, and he had a lot going on. He just finished up the draft. They were probably going through trying to find all the undrafted free agents and get them under contract. So when he was asked about Jordan Love's fifth-year option, he knew until Tuesday. He was kind of a little bit, dismissive of it. He didn't go into too much detail. Did say basically that, hey, this is it's an important decision. He is going to make, the contract is $20 million guaranteed, and it's a player that really hasn't played it all. So that it does make it a little bit different and a little bit tough. So I can understand why he's maybe thinking that, but maybe because it was draft weekend and he knew he had until Tuesday, maybe he was just kind of, going along with it. And maybe he knows he's going to pick it up easily. And by the time Tuesday rolls around, he's, picked up the fifth-year option, and Jordan Love is, he has got that guaranteed deal next year. Maybe it's something as simple as that, and he just didn't expound upon it during draft weekend. That could be one side of things. The second is that maybe they are looking towards some sort of extension for Jordan Love. Maybe instead of doing the 1 year, $20 million guaranteed, maybe they really have a lot of faith and belief in Jordan Love, and they ultimately want to sign him to a longer term deal. Aaron Rodgers had something similar happen when he took over as the starting quarterback in Green Bay, and maybe they want to give him a significant contract of some sort and lock him into Green Bay. I would argue that I think that is a bad idea for Green Bay. Now, if he turns out great, it is a very good idea and it will play out very well. I just think that if you have this fifth-year option where you can sign him right now for $20 million guaranteed in 2024, and you have that lever at your disposal, just pull that and see how he plays this upcoming season. If he starts to play well, then start having those long-term, deal discussions. But you don't want to necessarily lock yourself into a 3 or 4 or 5 year deal for a quarterback that hasn't played yet. Listen, if Brian is being honest and he's saying that 1 year, $20 million guaranteed is a tough contract to give out for a player that hasn't played, then a contract extension probably is the same thing, right? And maybe there's some sort of middle ground there, but if I'm Jordan, I'm sort of probably betting on myself. And if I'm the Packers, I kind of want to see what he can do out on an actual football field when he's actually given starter reps and teams start game planning for him. So I actually don't think an extension really makes all that much sense for both sides at this moment. And the other thing that they could be doing is maybe trying to play a little bit of hardball with Jordan Love and his agent. Maybe the 1 year, $20 million guaranteed is just a little bit of a step too far for Green Bay. Also knowing that they could probably work something out with Jordan that's similar, but is more beneficial for Green Bay. So let's think about this for a second. Let's say that they don't want to give 1 year, $20 million guaranteed to Jordan Love. So they say, we're going to decline your option, but we'll give you 1 year, $15 million guaranteed. And we're going to add in some incentives on top of that, that if you reach certain incentives, you can actually earn even more than what the 20 million would have paid you. For Green Bay, that saves you $5 million. And if he hits the incentives, you're probably happy about it anyway. And you get a little bit of cost savings. It's a little bit less restrictive than the 20 million overall. And for Green Bay, they, again, by playing a little bit of hardball, they save a little bit of money and give themselves a little bit more flexibility. From Green Bay side of things, that maybe makes sense. From Jordan Love's side of things, at least from his agent side of things, you have to sort of think through it. First of all, if it's 15 mil with incentives that could get above 20 million, all right, well, I actually now have the ability to make more than the 20 million we were set to make next year. That's not the worst option in the world. Meanwhile, if Green Bay would in fact decline the option, in that scenario, if all of a sudden Jordan Love goes out and has an awful season, what is he going to get on the open market next year? Maybe 5, 6, 7 million on a 1-year deal. So taking, 15 mil guaranteed with incentives on top of that doesn't sound so bad from an insurance standpoint. And let's play this out from Jordan Love's side of things. All right, so if he plays amazing next year and he takes that offer from Green Bay, he's going to hit all of those incentives, make more than the $20 million anyway, and he's going to get a long-term deal because he was amazing. Same thing if he's really good, same thing if he's good, right? He's probably going to get that extension. He's going to get paid. He might hit those incentives, and you're probably in a good spot. If he plays poorly or gets hurt or anything like that, now all of a sudden, like I said, going into next year, you're probably not getting anywhere near that 15, 18 million guaranteed, whatever sort of contract that they work out on that 1-year deal. So it could be beneficial for Love and his agent to say, okay, we'll tear up, or you can decline the $20 million option, the guaranteed option for next year, and we'll sign a 1-year, $15 million guaranteed deal with incentives on top of that. We'll do that. We get a little bit of security on our end if Jordan struggles or if something would happen from an injury standpoint. You guys save a little bit of money. There's incentive to make more than the $20 million. There could be some sort of middle ground that would make sense there for both sides. I don't necessarily see that happening, but I could logically understand why Green Bay would at least maybe want to pitch that to Jordan and his agent to see if there's maybe anything that they could get some middle ground on and gain some traction in regards to a deal that doesn't include just the 1-year $20 million guaranteed. So let's go over, however, let's say Jordan Love and his agent say, no, you're either picking up our option or you're not. And if you don't, then we'll go into next year and we'll figure things out at that time. We're not going to do anything during the season. It's your option right now if you want to pick it up or not. So any other deal or contract or extension is off the table. So they're not going to do an extension. They're not going to do any sort of different 1-year deal. It's just going to be either you pick up our option or you don't. If that's the situation for Green Bay, this is absolutely a no-brainer for me that you 1,000,000% pick up that option. So let's go through all of those scenarios one more time. So you pick up the 1-year $20 million guaranteed option and lock him into 2024. What happens if he's amazing? That 1-year $20 million deal looks awesome. You are so pumped that you did that. Now you have a little bit more time to work out a long-term deal and a long-term agreement. So you are ecstatic that you picked up that option. So that's good. If he's really good or even good, you're probably still satisfied with it. A good starter in the NFL, a good year for Jordan Love. You're probably more than happy to give him 1-year $20 million, even if it is guaranteed. And then you can sort of evaluate from there if you want to give him a long-term extension or not. But if he's good, you don't hate him having him one more year for $20 million. That's certainly not of any sort of concern whatsoever. If he's okay, some ups and downs, but shows some okay signs, like some signs of development, even then, you probably still go into next season with him as your starter. Maybe you think of replacing him or drafting somebody early, but you probably want to give him that one more year and you don't want to give up on him after just one season as a starter, especially if he at least showed signs. So 1 year, $20 million doesn't sound all that bad. Maybe it's not perfectly ideal for somebody who didn't play as well as you were expecting maybe in their first year, but it's not awful either. And even if you do draft a quarterback, having that quarterback there that, can be somebody that can sort of take those initial snaps and the rookie doesn't have to start from day one, it gives you some additional options, and you're not going to go out and sign a big name free agent at quarterback next year anyway. So at that point, it still, to me, makes sense. And if he's awful, let's just say he's bad, he's awful, whatever, right? Then yeah, the 1 year, $20 million guaranteed, not ideal. It's certainly not something that you want to do. However, if that's the case, we already know that you're not competing next year anyway. Jordan was awful, and now you got to find a new quarterback. You're probably drafting one. If he was awful, if Jordan Love is awful this season, what are they probably going? 3-14? 2-15, like if he's really, really bad, there's probably no coming back from that. They're just going to be really bad. So you're probably drafting a guy in the top 3 in the draft next year. And yeah, it's not ideal that you're paying Jordan $20 million guaranteed, but again, you're not competing next year. You're drafting your quarterback for the future, and it sucks that you have him on a 1 year, $20 million deal, but it doesn't really affect the long-term outcome of your team anyway. And now you've got your new rookie quarterback that you draft next year that you start developing. Jordan will fall off after 1 year, and then you try to build your team around that new quarterback in year 2, 3, 4, etc. So there's not a massive downside there either. On the flip side, what happens if you don't pick it up and he is amazing and balls out? Now you're super upset that you didn't pick it up, and now you have to franchise him, which is significantly more money than the $20 million option would have been. And you're ecstatic about it still that he was amazing, but you missed out on a much cheaper 5th year in that $20 million deal than what you're now going to have to pay him in a massive contract moving forward. So you're bummed that you didn't pick it up in that scenario. If he's good, you're certainly not, in a position still where you can't pay him next year. So you probably franchise him anyway in that scenario. If you didn't pick up the option and he was good to really good, you're franchising him. If he was okay but showed signs of potential, you still might franchise him. Maybe you do transition tag instead and just bet that nobody's going to give him a huge deal and that you can probably get him on the transition tag, which is basically the same as if you signed him to the 1 year, 20 mil anyway. So, and then if he's bad or awful, like that's the one scenario that really works out. If you don't sign him to the 20 mil guaranteed and pick up his 5th year option and he's awful next year, that is the one scenario in all of this where you're like, oh, well, we dodged a little bit of a bullet and you're still not in a great spot and you still need a starting quarterback for next year. So if you play out all of these options, like every one of them, except for one, the $20 million, situation is at least okay. You're not upset about it. And in a lot of situations, it saves you money, doesn't have to put a franchise tag on them, don't have to sign them to that immediate long-term deal. You may actually get some cap savings next year. So, and plus, let's not just, gloss over the fact that not giving it to him, kind of doesn't give him that stamp of approval, doesn't show the belief in him. And, I just think that it's good business and is going to give him the feel like he's actually the quarterback in Green Bay by picking up that option. You picked up Darnell Savages at $8-9 million a season ago. If you did that, you can absolutely pick up Jordan Love's 5th year option. And if it doesn't work out, like I said, you're probably going to be bad next year anyway. It doesn't really affect you all that much in 2024. You'll be off the deal by 2025. Just all around, it just makes sense to do. And it certainly gives Jordan that vote of confidence. They should absolutely pick it up unless, like I said, they're able to work out something with his agent that just makes a little bit more sense for both sides. That's a little bit more cost effective, that gives Jordan a little bit more security, and that would allow him ultimately to earn even more than the 20 million if he went and had a better season. So maybe there's something there. If not, pick it up, be done with it, and make sure that Jordan Love is under contract for next season, even if it is a little less than ideal at 20 mil guaranteed for a player that hasn't played yet, basically, in the NFL. That's going to do it for me. Always appreciate you. I'll be right back here tomorrow with an all new episode. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.